with RBI, and we are going to be reviewing SmartCharts Pro here today. Thank you for joining us. We're real excited about this latest release. I've been with RBI since its inception almost 5 years ago, and this is by far the most exciting release we've had other than when we initially launched RBI Expert way back when. Most of the folks on the call are already SmartCharts Pro subscribers. Some of you may have been RBI Expert subscribers in the past, so I'll get into a few of the, or a lot of the new things that are available with SmartCharts Pro, and I'll just dive right in. Again, my name is Corey Hart. I'm the product manager here. I'm not our normal webinarist, so bear with me, but I know the product pretty well, so hopefully I can give you some good insights in terms of what's available and how to use it. Okay, so right now I'm on the SmartCharts home screen. That's getsmartcharts.com. If you've already logged in previously and you haven't cleared cache, once you go to getsmartcharts.com in the future, you'll go right into the statistics section. But I will go ahead and click on statistics now, and we'll go ahead and get into the product. So a lot of the things that were available in RBI Expert have been retained. We've just made enhancements to them. Some of the look and feel has changed just to make for better, make it easier for you to get to the metrics and get to them above the fold. To change location, anytime that, so the default is going to be the Mid-Atlantic region. This is all core MRAS counties. But if I want to dive into any subdivision, city, zip code, county, or region, I can start typing it in up top to change location. So let's say I just want to look at Northern Virginia. Just start typing it in. I see the smart box options. Click on Northern Virginia. Now the entire application reloads with stats applicable to the region that I just entered. If I'd entered, 20152, my zip code. So here on Northern Virginia, we can see there were 3,500-ish sales. Change it to my zip code, and I'll see the zip code statistics here and on every other tab within the site. We'll go ahead and stick with Northern Virginia now, just a bit more applicable to more folks on the call, although I understand. I'm sure there are people here from Baltimore and D.C., but just we'll pick one. So Northern Virginia. The first section within the dashboard is the market gauges. Again, so there's dashboard, there are charts, and there are reports, and I'll quickly run through the reports section at the end, but we'll focus mostly on the dashboard and charts since that's where most of the new functionality and features are. If at any time, I forgot to mention, if you have questions as I'm going through this, please go ahead and use the GoToMeeting panel to enter your questions, and I'll do my best to answer them as we go along. If I don't answer them during the flow of the demo, then I will be sure to leave some time at the end to hit any and all questions that you all might have. Okay, so back to the market gauges. So these aren't new necessarily to SmartCharts. We did release these back last year in RBI Expert. What we have done is expanded upon the number of metrics available in the dashboard. One that jumps out right away is this months of supply metric is now part of the dashboard. If you click over, you can see the other metrics that are included, and I'll get into how to read the chart in a second, but you can see new listing, median sale price, median list price for active homes, average and median days on market, median sale to original list price ratio is a new metric. We always had average sale to original list price, and then price per square foot information as well. But we'll go ahead and review. I'll pick one, and we can get a good feel for what all the information is that I can glean just from this one gauge. So the dial itself is the most recent month's activity. So for new pendings, there were 3,514 new pendings in Northern Virginia. Where the color breaks on each chart, on each gauge, that's the 5-year average. So wherever it breaks, that dictates the 5-year average. So we can see for new pendings, there were more new pendings in June than the 5-year June average. And any time that we're talking about, most any time you're talking about trends in real estate, because of the seasonality of the real estate market, spring's going to shoot up, summer's going to maintain, and then fall and winter you'll start to see a lag. Anytime that we're talking about a given trend, we want to look at the year-over-year change or how that most recent month compares to that same month over the previous 5 years or 10 years, what have you. And so throughout the site, you'll see a lot of mentions of year-over-year percent change. And that's just your percent change from the same month last year. But being able to compare to the 5-year June average, in Northern Virginia, we're about 5 years out of, post-recession. I know the recession technically might not have been 5 exact years ago, but the housing market recovery really began about 5 years ago. So anytime you're talking about a 5-year trend, it's valid. We aren't comparing to June 2008 when things were just at a standstill. We're still in the realm of post-recovery. So the other thing I can glean from this chart is the minimum for each metric and the maximum for each metric are charted along the side. You might not be able to see the exact number depending on the scale, but you're able to see, for instance, active listings are at a 5-year June high in Northern Virginia. Inventory's grown. We're at a 5-year June high. Months of supply is not to the 5-year peak, which was probably somewhere around 3.7 months of supply, but we're well above the 5-year average, so that's moving more towards a balanced market. Anything from 4 to 6 months is generally considered balanced. It varies depending on where you are. Northern Virginia, 6 months would be, we got above 6 months way back during the hard times, but we've been really under this 4 months of supply for some time now. Any of these charts can be embedded. So if let's say I wanted to embed the median sale price, since that's a nice view of we're at a 5-year June high, I can click embed, and then I'll pick whichever metric I'm interested in from this drop list. So median sold price for sales, it'll update. You can either update automatically or keep current date here. Updating automatically means that any time a visitor comes to your site, let's say in August 11th, you'll see July stats, because as soon as our stats are published on the 10th or the next business day, if you've embedded with the auto update option, your website will automatically be updated with the most recent stats. That's a nice feature for, set it and forget it. You don't need to go and manually do this each month. If, however, you're on a blog and you have put some narrative around it and you want to say median sale price is that all-time or 5-year high, that may not continue to be the case once you get into August, September, October, November, in which case you want to do the keep current date, and then it will stay on the June numbers. Copy and paste that, and then just copy that onto the HTML view of your web editor. So those are the market gauges. I'll get a little bit more into embedding once we get into the interactive charts. The other sections within the dashboard, so again, I'm on Northern Virginia. Here I can see closed sales, median sold price, average sold price. One of the new things we've added to this is the median price per square foot and average price per square foot. So here you can also see the YOY, the year-over-year percent change, so we can see sales are down from last June 2013, but median sale price is up in Northern Virginia 1.5%. Month over month is also there in case you're curious to see what the May to June change was. But again, we can almost, it's predictable to say, sales are going to go down in given months, or prices are going to go up in given months. So the month over month, I just caution to take that with a grain of salt. And then the June contract snapshot, where you can see closed sales, contracts, and contingent contracts all in one spot. So we can see from this, just from giving it a quick look, you can see we're not where we were over the last 5 years in June, just in terms of all sales activity. This next section is Explore. We had an Explore feature in RBI Expert, but this is that feature sort of on steroids. I use this feature all the time on reports that we put together here at RBI for our press releases, etc. And this is the best way to sort of get a sense of how different counties within a region are doing, or if you're on a region, if you're on a county page, you can see how all cities within that county are doing, or how all subdivisions within that county or zip codes within that county are doing. Same thing with cities. If I'm on a city page, I'm in Chantilly, Virginia, I can see all cities within Chantilly and all subdivisions within Chantilly, Virginia. So just to get a quick sense of, the default is median sold price by counties. So here's all counties within Northern Virginia. I can see the June numbers, so 2014 in June, 2013 for June, and the percent change. And you can sort any of these by clicking on the column header. So you can sort, let's say that you're on a cities list for all cities in Northern Virginia. So it's a big list, and the default is going to be sorted by the 2014 most expensive, but I can change that to sort instead by percent change in median sale price. And we can see, so this is the parent location. Anything above that is exceeding the parent location. In this case, these are the cities that are in front of the Northern Virginia median price trends. More importantly, for those interested in subdivisions, let's say that I'm on Fairfax County. So I'll change my location to Fairfax County, Virginia. And we'll get down to median sold price. The default's going to be cities, but I can then pull up legal subdivisions within Fairfax County. And whenever you're getting into lower, more granular locations like subdivisions, year-to-date is often more useful than the monthly level, just because the sales volume is not sufficient enough in some cases to dictate a real trend. Especially if you're in a zip code or a subdivision like South Riding, there might be enough, and there are enough sales to justify this is the trend. But year-to-date is what you might look at more closely if you're looking at comparing subdivisions. That's saying January through June of 2014, the median sale price for Hillside Manor, McLean, Virginia, is $1.4 million, whereas it was $600,000 before. That's an example of a low-volume subdivision, and a lot of that has to do with just the types of homes being sold. But if we switch this to median days on market for sold properties, this is something where you can see where your subdivision ranks compared to other subdivisions within this county. You can get into city to make it a little more relevant to you. But we can see those that are under 7, the homes are selling in 7 days or less, above 7 days, and scroll all the way down, see where Fairfax County is at the 2 weeks, and get further from there. Any of these can be exported to Excel. So if I just want to take a look at just sold listings by legal subdivisions, I can take this list and we'll sort it by year-to-date, and you can see how small some of these subdivisions are in terms of sales volume. But I can then export that to Excel. And from there I can put it together. I can sort, filter, whatever you want to do within Excel, create new charts, store it for the next month, what have you. But that export to Excel is a nice feature. We use that a lot just to, we'll get the basic stuff up front, and then we'll go and put together spreadsheets based off of what we get out of Explorer. So let's see, back to where it was. And the metrics that are included here, you can take a look at new pendings, new listings, active inventory, so you can see which subdivisions have seen inventory increases over time, and a lot of them have. It's somewhat rare to see too too many subdivisions with inventory going down just because of the market, the current market state. So that is Explore. I'll jump into reports really quickly. No huge changes here from what we had in RBI Expert, but this is the best place to come if you just, you got 10 minutes and you just want to grab something to print out and take with you for an open house, or even a listing presentation if you don't want to invest too much time up front to dive too into the weeds into the charts. You can print out something like the Local Market Insight Report for their zip code or subdivision. The Local Market Insight Report has all as the default, but if I'm, say, going to a townhouse and the other markets aren't as important, or I might say all and attached townhouse, I then download that by hitting go, and it'll take a sec just to build it out, and now we have a PDF. My version of this PDF doesn't have my branding since I'm just in an admin account, but and hopefully most of you on the call have seen this already, but the Local Market Insight Report will include your agent branding here in terms of your name, your broker, your contact information will all be found here, and the SmartCharts or RBI branding will be down at the bottom in the footer. So this is a great tool for just, it brings out some infographics and gives you a sense of key metrics for all home sales. So I can see median sale price, I can see the year-to-date median sale price versus last year. Little modules, the 5-year average down min, max, where we are in June, and the 5-year June average. Just another view of that metric that sort of looks nice, we think. Once you get into home type specific reports, that's where you'll also see a narrative that sort of sums up some of these metrics around in a narrative that you can then take to either learn about that area if you're not as into looking at market gauges and stats, et cetera. You can take some of this nomenclature or some of the trends that are spit out here and share those with your lister or buyer. So that's the Local Market Insight Report. The detailed report, again, this was available in RBI Expert, but here you can get a year-to-date stats. So if you're in a subdivision, year-to-date stats would probably be more beneficial to you than a monthly June report. So you can go back for counties all the way back to 1997 if you were interested, but click year-to-date, June 2014, and then you'll have your detailed report. And this isn't the prettiest of reports, but it does give you a lot of information, and it will have your branding up top. And this is the template of this report we carried over from way back when, before RBI was created by MRS. MRS has done a report for NAR, and so we just replicated that report format here. So we didn't want to have a shock to the system of folks that were used to using those reports in the past. So we kept it pretty much as it was. So that's the report section. Again, it's all above the fold. That's one of the big changes we've made. Whereas before in RB Intel, you'd have to scroll down once you change your location. Here I can switch to Chantilly, Virginia, and quickly get to that report from there. Whereas before you had to click a tab and then find the report, download it, and change location, and scroll down again, et cetera. So that's what we were focused on a lot, not just the new metrics, but the efficiency of the product user experience. I have a question here real quick that I think I can answer. How do you print the report? So to print the report, it's a PDF, and so you're just going to, depending on what browser you're in, generally there's a download option. So it'll open as a web page, but it's really a PDF reader. So to print it, your browser, I'm in Firefox right now, I just click the print icon and then I can print it out, or download and print from your Adobe printer. Okay? And I'll get back into the other questions in a bit. But again, about the efficiency of the product experience. I'm going to get back to Northern Virginia, or just I'll switch over to charts now. So I'm in Chantilly, Virginia right now. The old product experience, you'd have to scroll down to the Interactive Charts tab, and then there would be a stack of 4 charts on top of each other. And as you're making changes to one chart, let's say that you're putting on home type, ownership, stats, I'd have to then go and rebuild that for every metric that was included in that stack of 4. In today's version, I can quickly change either location. So let's say that I'm looking at closed sales for all homes, attached townhouses, and detached homes. I can quickly change locations back to, say, Northern Virginia, and whatever I had turned on will remain turned on. So it's just an easier way to jump around. Let's say you're in a subdivision, you want to quickly jump into a zip code. You can do that, and the charts will continue to reflect what you had. Some of the new things in our charts. So market activity, there weren't any new metrics added in terms of market activity, new pendings. So that new pendings are the number of contracts entered in that month. All pendings are the number of contracts at month's end, regardless of when they went into the contract status. And any of these that I'm going through, the terminology can be found on the support section on the SmartCharts homepage. So I know I'm going through this pretty quickly, but you can reference that to get definitions around these, especially when we get into some of the other metrics. So one of the new things here, though, is we've always been able to see monthly sales. Now we can actually see 10 years worth of sales data, or 10 years worth of pricing data, 10 years worth of days on market data. Whereas before we were at a 5-year view, and you can see that the story is pretty consistent. You see the seasonal pattern. Now we can also see the 10-year. That makes a big difference, especially when you're talking about inventory levels. So we know inventories started to go up of late. You see this uptick as new listing activities picked up, and sales aren't quite where they were in the previous year, even though they're above the 5-year average. Well, here you can tell the story to your buyer or seller that even though inventory is up, and we might see inventory go up another 20% next month, we're still a ways away from this being I guess it could be called a buyer's market of the bad times when there's so much supply versus demand. And we can see why that happened by new listing activity over that time. New listings shot up, and one way to see that now is we have change from previous year. So this is basically that YOY view, and it's based off of the 0. So 0%, if there was no change, it would be flat. It would be sitting right on that 0% line. Anything above that 0% line is a year-over-year increase. So we see that new listings really started to pick up back in April 2013 in Northern Virginia after several years of being down. But we can see what happened back in the bubble when listings just shot up. You can compare metrics now, which was not as easy to do back in RV Expert. So I can compare new listing rates versus new pending rates and the year-over-year change, and we can see the pattern now. Or back when inventory was building way up, you can see that's because new pendings shot way down. They were down as much as 41%, while listing activity picked way up, and that's why we saw that huge rise in inventory. We aren't seeing the same pattern recently, but this is you can dive into your county or zip code and see what parallels there are with what I'm explaining here where you live. And so that's the main thing with having that 10-year is that it helps to set the context of the current market for you and for your buyers and sellers. For instance, we can take a look at median sale price now. So median sale price is in our pricing trends section. So within pricing trends, whereas there just used to be one chart that said median sold price and one chart that said average sold price, now all these metrics are in one spot. So I can add metrics to compare median sold price for sales versus the median list price for active listings. And this is looking at the year-over-year change. You can switch this to line view, but what this is basically saying is that the list price, people started getting on top of that, and list prices started falling drastically well before the sold price started to drop. And this is probably too wonky. I'm going to get out of this for a second, but you can set the 10-year history. This is just looking at the actual value. So if we look at the median sold price over time, when we only had the 5-year view, all you saw was basically from this point forward. But now with the 10-year view, you can realistically set the context to say, look, things are looking up price-wise, but we're still not quite where we were during the bubble. Another way to use this on a listing-by-listing basis is, let's say that you are representing and this is for Northern Virginia, so it's not quite as applicable, but if, let's say you're in a zip code and you have a seller that has a 1,200 to 1,400 square foot home. You can go over to the facets and turn on just that price, just that square foot range, and now I can compare the median sold price for sales versus the median list price for new pendings. So what's actually moving? This is the leading indicator of where things might be headed. Not all new pendings will close, obviously, but so take that into consideration. But you can see the new pending price is down 4%, whereas sales, which might have gone to pending a month and a half or 2 months prior, depending on the type of home, those are at 1.4%. I can also turn on the competition. I can see the median list price for active listings for 1,200 to 1,400 square foot homes. And this across a big region like Northern Virginia might not be as applicable, but if I'm in a zip code, let's just take a look at, I'll change this to something that I know we have in South Riding, just to see if it pans out. So I can switch this to South Riding, Virginia. And we can see, if I'm talking with a potential seller, look, your competition's out there at 400.5K. What's actually moving is more in this 335 to 335 range. So that helps you to sort of give them more context, more objective context into what's available out there, not just the comps, but sort of what's moving in that subdivision. So it's a way to complement your CMA discussion. I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. We'll just go out to Baltimore County for now, or Baltimore metro area, just so we're in a new spot. So those are the pricing trend metrics. The pricing ratios. So the median sold price to original list price range, that means that half the homes that sold were sold for 97.1% of the original list price in Baltimore, in the Baltimore metro region. That's new to our reporting. We've always had average sold price to original list price ratio, and that tends to, unlike other outliers with the average, that actually tends to bring down the percentage, just because it takes into account those folks that might have listed at $100,000 and taken a $60,000 offer. That'll greatly impact the average and not so much the median. This is a good one tip to talk about here is you can use this in a pricing conversation as well. So I'm looking at the average SP to OLP ratio. We can look at that by days on market. And so we can see, and bear with me as I turn these on, 1 to 10 days, 11 to 20 days, 21 to 30 days. And what this starts to show, and I'll switch this just to 3 months, what this is clearly showing objectively is that the longer, and it's intuitive to real estate professionals, but the longer your home's on the market, the less you're going to get of original list price. But this is a good way to just say to your buyer or seller, pull this up for your subdivision or zip code. Look, this is the trend. We can go high, we can price high, but in the end, the market tends to figure it out. I'll do all I can to get as much of your original list price as you're asking for, but here's the reality of the situation. If it's going to take you 6 months, then you might be losing 12% of your original list price anyway. So let's get back to that CMA and take a look at what I'm recommending. Similarly, if you're on the buyer side and you're going to a home that's been on the market, let's say I'm in Baltimore County, let's say this represents Baltimore County, and that home has been on the market 180, let's say it's been on the market 300 days, then your starting basis might be at 88.2%. And then you take into account the other things having to do with the home, how it shows its condition, etc. But that 88.2, hey, I'm not going to go higher than this. My buyer shouldn't have to. This is the trend. You're overpriced. Here's why, and it's objective data. So that's one way to use the pricing ratios section. Days on market. We've added a few wrinkles to days on market. Sorry, I'll do quarters. This quarterly view is new as well. We before only did monthly, now we do quarters. So you switch that just by doing what I did here. Just months is the default. Just switch that to quarters. That's especially helpful in subdivisions and zip codes with lower volume. You get cleaner, smoother trends over time. So the median days on market is something we've always had. We can add metrics. So let's just take a look at attached only. I can compare the median and the average days on market here. We tend to report on median in almost any metric because it's not as susceptible to be influenced by outliers. Outliers can really shoot up in the average days on market. It can really shoot up the average sold price. It can shoot down the average sold price to original list price ratio. So we tend to report on median. So that means half the homes in Baltimore Metro, half the attached homes in Baltimore Metro sold in 31 days or fewer, and half sold for more. You can take a look at that over 10 years to see is that good or bad. You can see it's much better than where we were in the tough times, where it was taking 3 months for half the homes to sell. Another metric that's included here is, and this is brand new in SmartCharts, and we're excited about it, is you can get further into the actual contract process and what's happening with these homes after they sell, and that is the average median or average contract to settle. So we'll just look at the average contract to settle and the average days on market. Average contract to settle is 49 days. So that means the average for a home to get a contract, and I'm still looking at attached townhomes. I'm going to just switch this to all. And we'll do month. Okay, so for the month of June, the average days contract to settle for homes that sold was 49 days. The average time to contract was 67 days. And what does that mean for the total average days to settle? That takes it from the life of original list through to contract and through to closing. It's 108 days is the average. That's good for setting expectations for your buyers or sellers to say, look, come with me, you can start now, but as they're starting to say, why is this taking so long, et cetera, you can tell whether or not you're in the norm or not. One of the things that jumped out at us when we were looking at contract to settle was just how long it's taking short sales to settle. So this is for all homes. 49 days is the average contract time in contract. For short sales, this is in Baltimore Metro, but it's true elsewhere, it's 120 days. So banks are obviously, the settlement process is taking much longer for short sales, which those of you that deal with short sales are very aware of. But using a chart like this, if you tend to represent short sellers, this is a good way to help set their expectations, or really to answer the barrage of telephone calls you're getting. Why is this taking so long, even though you're doing everything you can possibly do? This is a good way to say, look, we knew this was going to take some time, and we're still underneath the average days to contract, so bear with us for a bit longer. It might be a way you might use this chart if you have a buyer that's in between looking at a short sale that looks like a bargain to them or a regular sale that might be a bit more expensive or might not be quite as big as that short sale. This is a good chart to come to sort of say, look, here's the reality of entering that short sale market. It's going to take you much longer. And so that's for Baltimore Metro. I'm just going to check just to see if it holds true for Northern Virginia. Yeah, 112 days versus 42 days. The median contract to settle, so half the homes are taking longer, half are taking less, is 91 days. So 3 months, half the short sales that closed were in contract status for 3 months or less, which is not that great. So those are the new metrics in days on market. Price per square foot, I'll just quickly run into this. I still have short sales turned on. Turn this off. So median sold, especially if you're in the condo market, price per square foot is obviously of importance. You can look at Washington, D.C. You can see the median sold price per square foot is $494. Let's say you have a client, and this is not the best scenario, but pretend it's 2 counties right next to each other. It's between, I'm looking at condos in D.C. or Baltimore. I know Baltimore's a little bit cheaper. You can compare locations now. And we can turn on City of Baltimore versus Washington, D.C. and see the $494 per square foot is the median in D.C. versus $136 is the median price per square foot in Baltimore. Use that same thing to get at if you're an Arlington seller, pull up. An Arlington agent, you can pull up the various subdivisions within Arlington or zip codes within Arlington to help your buyer find the subdivision that they're interested in. Again, any of these can also be charted by change from previous year, and we can see Baltimore was down in May but back up, and DC is the opposite. I'm running short on time. I do want to jump into supply and demand. Actually, I already had something built. So supply and demand, what I've done here is charted out the supply and demand. So in South Riding, which is a subdivision, against its zip code, 20152, versus its city, versus the county of Loudoun, versus Northern Virginia, its region. And here I can tell the story that South Riding is more of a seller's market than its parent location. That's for all homes. We can switch this to see if that's the case for townhouses. Again, the terminology section gets more into what exactly months of supply means, but that's the best way that most real estate professionals have of gauging supply versus demand. It basically means, in a nutshell, if there's active inventory, if you look at active inventory at the end of this most recent month, and you compare that with the 12-month sales pace over the last 12 months, the average, it would take how many months to sell off all of the active inventory if no new listings were added. So it's sort of an abstract thing, but like I said, 4 to 6 months is generally considered balanced. So when we're in 2 months, basically all of these jurisdictions from the county down to the subdivision are still in a buyer's market, but we can see that this particular subdivision is a more of a seller's market than another, than its neighbors. Another way to look at this is if you're trying to identify, so I'll turn these guys off. But let's say that you're trying to identify what square foot range might be the sweet spot where there's huge demand and not as much supply. You can start turning on square foot ranges. And here we'll see that 1,800 to 2,000 square foot is the sweet spot. Some months there might not have been as many, but then once we get into the bigger homes, there's still seller's market. You can also do this by list price range. There's not going to be any there. There just aren't. So we can see that once you get into the more luxury homes in this particular market, that's when you're in a balanced market. If you're in Washington, D.C., you'd see something else. You'd see even $1 to $2.5 million homes. They're still in a seller's market, or at the very least, just getting into balanced market. Sorry, that got a bit wonky, nerdy, but months of supply is one of the supply and demand metrics. Another one that we were very interested in, we grouped it in here, is, I'm going to go back to Northern Virginia. You can see we have contractor ratio, absorption rate for new pendings, absorption rate for closed sales, new pendings to new listings ratio, and the seller success rate. Actually, I was talking about short sales in Baltimore, so I'll go ahead and go back into Baltimore Metro. And so we see the seller success rate is basically the opposite of the fallout rate. We just take a look at all homes that were in pending status. They can either stay as they are, in which case they aren't included in this calculation, or they sell, they go to settlement and close successfully. Those are seller successes. Or they fall out. They don't get the contract. They're no longer in pending status. They might have been gone back to be relisted. They might have been taken off the market altogether. Those are the failures. So in Baltimore Metro, for all home types, only 17% of contracts are failing in June. That's up from May slightly. And we can look at this over, say, 2 years. So 83%. But when we take a look at short sales, it's the green line now that this serves as my legend. We look at short sales and we can see that only 40% of short sales that were in pending status that are no longer pending, only 40% of those resulted in an actual sale. So 60% of sales of short sales are failing. That's another way to set expectations for that buyer that might be looking at that bargain of a short sale. And it's something to pay attention to, and I know we're paying attention to now. As far as we know, the only shop around that has access, that gives access to this type of information, and it's very interesting to us. Any of these can be downloaded. That's a quick view of all the different metrics we have, or most of the different metrics we have. If I just want to download these to Excel, if I'm a big Excel fan, I can turn on 10 years worth of data, and I could even turn on, let's say, a chart that's not going to look all that great. So I'll add new pending, all pending, new listing, an active listing. It's too many series probably, but if I want to dive into this further in Excel, then I just click download, view as Excel, and there you go. I'll have all this information. This is my old one. It's still loading. So I have 10 years worth of data for whatever metrics I've turned on in that chart. I'm out of time, but I'm going to run into questions here in 1 second. Just the embed option. So if I wanted to embed this chart, this wouldn't be a chart that I'd recommend embedding. It's too busy and silly. But if I want to embed, then I just click there. Auto update version, like I said, if you want it to auto update, so every time that we get new stats, your chart will have new stats in the months going forward. Figure out the chart size that I'm interested in that fits my website. If I have a right rail, I might do something like that, smaller size, or if I have a full middle section, then I might do the largest size. And then it's just a matter of copying and pasting this onto your web editor. And here's an example of the web editor. This is an exact site thing that we have set up just for demo purposes. This is after I've copied and pasted that code, but almost any web editor you're using, or any web editor, is going to have a what you see is what you get, which is this. And they'll have it'll say HTML or it'll say source view. And when we click on that, we see the HTML. And even if you're not familiar with HTML, you can sort of say put chart here. So I'll say put chart here. And then when I flip over to HTML view, I find where I put chart here, delete that, and then just copy and paste this code exactly from what I have here. I copy and paste that there, and then when I click back to design view, we'll see it. And once I publish it, then your site visitors will see it. We have a lot of examples on our site of agents that have done this effectively, and we want to make you the source for this information, not send them to us. You walk through the interactive charts with them on a sales-by-sales basis, but for your marketing purposes, the more you can get our stuff onto your site and then start your newsletters pointing back to your website, the more effective your website strategy will be. I'm going to go ahead and stop there. I ran over again. I apologize. I did this last week, and I was not going to do it again. Let me go ahead and jump into the questions and see what we've got. I'll pull this out now. Okay. For those of you that have a 45-minute break, thanks for joining. For those of you that want to stay, we'll run through the questions now. Let's see. When you have selected one variable on the right-hand side, does it stay selected when you choose another? In other words, can I isolate attached townhomes at specific square footage and look at those metrics? Good questions, sir. Not at this time. So that's something that we've called Uber filter. We did get into design phase there to actually let you say, I want to see townhouses that are 2,000 square feet to 2,500 square feet or whatever. The way our data is aggregated at this point, we don't have that. That would be more automated on-the-fly stat crunching, and that is something that we're looking into. I can't promise. As we started looking into it, it got to be very complex, and we're, it's something we are considering. But at this point, there's no way to combine facets. Sorry about that. The chart says June 2014. This is the 2P00. Sorry, 2P. Sorry about that. Person asking that, I'm just not sure where it said June 2014 2.00. I think that was when I did the months of supply. So that 2.00 was 2 months of supply for June. Another question is, yes, we actually have had this question raised. This question is, when I'm working in Northern Virginia, most of my listings are $1 to $2 million, and so the breaks that we've picked at RBI, while they might be fine for Baltimore, that $1 to $2.5 million range, and he's referring to this section. I want to see this by list price range. So we break from $1 to to 2.5 million, 2.5 to 5 million. Those aren't granular enough. I hear you, and I can totally understand the concern with that, other than saying, you know, you can still get at general trends for quote-unquote luxury homes. Yeah, on a listing-specific basis that it will look into, and we are looking into how to get more granular price breaks into the product. It is something that will impact the back-end processes that we have to follow for data extraction, and it'll impact our front end, how to fit more price ranges into this section here. But it is something that we are aware of as a user need, and you know, hopefully we can get something better in the future. I am an appraiser. How can I copy and paste the dashboard into Word or PDF doc? For the dashboard itself, to get that into Word, what I've used, because right now you can't download as a PNG, I just would do a print screen. I have Snagit though, and that's a photo editor. But even if you have Microsoft Paint or whatever the Mac version is, it would just involve, you know, taking a screenshot, hitting print screen, and basically doing that and saving that as an image. I know that's not as efficient as you'd like it to be, or I would like it to be for you, but at this point that is the only way to get at saving the market gauges as images. Same goes for here. We've seen folks just take screenshots of what we have and basically put that onto a PDF document. How do you print that? Best way to share with clients? The best way to share, so if you don't have a website and you just want to, and you just have some nugget that, you know, you think this is really important for them to get, let's say, you know, median days on market. Hey, half the homes are selling in 13 days or less. Let's say you have some clients that are on the fence about, or potential clients that are on the fence. You can grab that 3-month view, say 12-month, 1-year view, and you can click this share option. So what this does is it creates a unique shareable page that is accessible by SmartCharts Pro customers and unauthenticated folks. So basically you can take this and share it on by email, Facebook, LinkedIn, and what it'll do is it'll share a link back to this page for their reference so they can see this picture when they get to it. Like I said, if you have a website, the best thing to do is, you know, as much as possible, you know, put some of these charts on your site, and then you can send links to your actual pages. And then you're getting the traffic, we're not getting the traffic. But this is definitely a way, you know, if you want to look at median sale price or whatever metrics you're interested, you pull out of here, that share option is very much an option. You can download as PNG and put that into the body of an email. For instance, I'll just click that, say copy image, and paste it into an email. That's a way of sharing. On Facebook, you can share to that share page. We tried to give you as many ways to share as possible depending on how comfortable where you are in the spectrum in terms of comfort with websites, etc. Let me see if there are other questions. How do I get this? I think I about covered it. Thank you for your time. My name, again, is Corey Hart, and I can be reached at Corey, C-O-R-E-Y, at rbintel.com. If you have further questions or wanted to follow up or run anything past me, again, that's Corey, C-O-R-E-Y, at rbintel.com. I appreciate you joining with me today, and hope you learned some new things out of it, and I look forward to future webinars. All right, thanks. Bye.